Welcome to Practical Psychology, episode number 8. I'm Joseph, the host. Today we are very happy to have Tanya, a mental health counselor based in Saskatoon, providing individual, couple, and family counseling. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Joseph. I'm happy to be here.
Tanya, here we're really excited to have you here. The first thing I want to ask here is about the CSID that you do, the critical stress incident debriefing. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, it is so critical incident stress debriefing or CISD as you mentioned. It was developed from like the 1980s by Dr. Jeffrey. Funny enough about that, Joseph, he was a first responder. And so the reason he developed CISD was because he realized the stresses that happen when you had a fire that caused loss, right? And so CISD really help persons to process the stress, a traumatic event, and to help kind of prevent any other psychological issues like PTSD down the road. So essentially, it should be done between 24 hours to 72 hours of the incident happening. So that's in a nutshell why CISD was created.
Oh yeah, Daniel, we know in counseling and psychology, there's a lot of demand and need. A
Yes,
lot of time it is a taboo with the emergency services or even regular staff when they witness a traumatic event at work.
exactly. It's and I'm glad you said that about staff, Joseph, because I mentioned firefighters, but it has evolved so much that it's used in the military, it's used in schools now, as you know, workplaces, so many different places that use the CISD because of how impactful it has been. So yeah, not only with firefighters anymore, but it has expanded beyond that.
Oh yeah, Tanya, according to the research and our clinical experience, for example, we have counselors working in the school districts. Even in schools, there'll be violence, bullying, traumatic incident that require the CSID.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree 100%. When I look at some of the, for example, even in Jamaica where I'm from, or in the States where you see those crime and violence happening from time to time, it's something that you have the counselors going in the schools and providing the CISD to these students and staff and a whole. So it has been quite impactful, Joseph. What I think I appreciate most about CISD is how structured it is. So it's not something, and the fact that you don't go in as a therapist, so you're not even working as a therapist at this point. At this point, you're really going in to support the staff and to help them to go through and to process this, not from a therapist viewpoint or anything of the sort, but as a supporter, someone who is facilitating the situation that just happened. So I think I genuinely like that about the CISD.
It's interesting you talk about it, Tanya, because a lot of people think about psychotherapy counseling as just sitting and talk, very relaxed. And you mentioned when you go into a situation to do the critical stress debriefing, it is high stress. It
Yes,
requires a structure and a system, not just showing up and hey, let's talk.
yes, it does. It does. Um, the structure itself, Joseph, really helps. Um, you're meeting these people for the first time. And as we know, in the therapeutic setting, it's important to build trust. And so, even though it's such a short time, the first step during the introduction is where the facilitator helps to build that trust, that level of confidentiality with all the groups that they'll be working with. And so I think I appreciate that because trust is something that's important to help people to get comfortable, especially under such circumstance, after a traumatic event. So yeah.
And Tanya here, for counselors or psychotherapists who are not familiar with this, what they
Mhm.
should know before taking a job in CSID, the critical stress response debriefing.
Yeah, that's a good question, Joseph. Something I think they genuinely need to know is that
Mhm.
it will not work for everybody. So even if you go into a school or a workplace, not everybody will benefit from this. And one of the things in the first step, Joseph, in the introductory step, is where you tell the participants or staff or whoever that this is completely voluntarily. You don't have to,
Mm,
because people process stress in different ways, right? So it's not something that I am here to facilitate this and you must do it. It's a
mm,
choice. And so that's something I want them to understand. There are persons who will not want to be a part of it, and that's completely fine, right? So that's
mm,
something I would definitely tell someone who is doing this for the first time. Not everyone will benefit from it, and not everyone will want to participate in it, and that's completely fine.
So you're telling a
Yes.
counselor should have an expectation of themselves that is voluntary and they shouldn't put it on themselves that they are able to help everybody.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes,
And
indeed.
what are some of the things that is a myth when people go
Hmm.
into the CSID?
Myth. Well, myth-wise, Joseph, I would probably say, I don't know. I think that's what one of the things I just pointed out to you, where people
Mm,
think that it will help everybody, and that's not the case. I would think that's my myth, to be honest. It will help everybody, and you're there
mhm.
to help everybody, but that's obviously not the case. I don't know if you can share other myths that you have heard that you can debunk. Like, what are some that you have heard?
Mhm. This is a very commonly asked questions, Tanya. Because if we look at grief or loss transition is one of the biggest reasons people seek counseling help. And in the past, they have the different stages of grief, the sadness, anger, denial. But now we know in research that people can have all these in different stages. And one of the biggest myths that we hear in our clinic when we help the first responders, firefighters, veterans, is the CSID is the starting point, the first step.
Mm,
First step to get into the door for psychotherapy help, ongoing needs. If they want to, it is an invitation rather than just a one-time event to fix somebody.
yes, yes, yes. It's interesting that you mentioned that because just from research, so it's CISD was developed, but because that in itself was that between that 24 and 72 hours,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
umbrella of it now is, of course, CISM, which is the management, which is really ongoing, because that one time fix, it's really just to help at that time. It's like a cushion. It doesn't do long term. And so the CISM, which is critical incident stress management, is more long term. You have tools, ongoing counseling, what persons may need it
Mhm.
further. So that's pretty interesting that you mentioned that about one off.
Yeah. And then you here we're very interested here. How about you
Mhm.
share a recent work experience with CSID about how is the rundown of the day starting, maybe even the night before?
Most definitely. So I recently did a CISD with a company, and essentially, yeah, the night before, you kind of want to have an understanding of what happened because that's
Mhm.
extremely important. You know, what's happening, what happened, who will be the persons, who, what happened, right? Essentially. And so you kind of prep yourself to prepare to deal with that particular situation, whether it be
Mhm.
violence or death or, disaster. So you kind of prep yourself the night before to see what you're going into and understand how people may approach these things after such events.
Mhm.
So for me, going in, that's what I did. I understood what it was. It was a death, and it was really a tragic one. You know, to say the least. And essentially, what I did, I looked at it. I looked at just the grief process because definitely it always comes in play as you educate. There's a step in
Mhm.
the phases. There's 7 steps, and there's a step where you educate
Mhm.
persons. And this step is where I use to inform them that grief happens in different stages. Some persons might be shocked right now. Some persons
Mhm.
might just be numb. Some persons, so many things happen. You're angry, you have questions, you're in disbelief, right? So for me, it was understanding all those steps and going in understanding that these people will be dealing with this in different ways. When I go in, of course, I met with the entire management staff and we kind of discussed what it's like. What are we dealing with? In this case, the staff were yet to understand or to even know about the news of this death. And so it was about working with the management staff for them to find the best possible way to break such tragic news to the staff, right? So that's how it started off. And then, of course, once they did that, they introduced me to share that I am here to support. Of course, they did say that I'm a counselor, but I did inform them that I'm a counselor, but I'm not working in that capacity today. Today I am working to support you and to facilitate what's happening. And that was in the entire group. Now, in what I found happening, Joseph, was a lot of persons depended on their peers during that time. So once they heard the news, they turned to their peers. It was a lot of peer support that was happening. Each person would go to the other for support, and I appreciated that. So even with that happening at that time, I start gathering groups. So I would see one group at a time, and in the group, this is where I would go through the 7 phases. Um, yeah. Oh, I keep going on and on. Sorry. Did you
You know,
have?
Tanya, here there's so many that we and the viewers really want to hear. Let's start with the beginning, even the night before. Because as we
Yes.
understood, you get the call to do the CSID
Yeah.
normally in short notice. They don't tell you
Mm-hmm.
7 days, 1 month in advance here for short notice.
Definitely. Yeah. Because they would know, right? It's a traumatic event. It's something sometimes, most times unplanned. So it's short notice. You get the call, you need to get there. There's always, yes, go ahead.
So it is short notice. It is demanding because
It
you
is.
probably relax at home and suddenly you get a call.
Mhm.
Then you have to like
Yes.
focus 0 to 100 right away.
Yes. 0 to 100. And I think at that time, it's the time when you gather all the things that you think you might need. And the good thing about it, when you have that background, it really helps cushion all the things that, you know, had you not known. So, yeah, you get that shock. You go 0 to 100, as you mentioned, and it's time to get on board to really support. It's not even about you anymore.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's
And I
about,
understand also a lot of times you'll be driving to a site, not in your city.
yes.
Tell us more about what happened during that drive.
Yes. During my drive, I drove for 1.5 hours. So it
Yeah,
was
wow.
getting up early because remember, staff are coming at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So for me, it was getting up super early, getting ready, prepping while I'm getting ready to ensure that I will be ready to give my best. And even as I'm driving, I am listening instead of playing music at that time, Joseph. Now I'm listening to ensure that I have this and I can support them in the best possible way. So as you drive, you think about all possible scenarios, what may be
Mhm.
happening, what could happen when the staff hear this news. So it was a long drive for me, but it was good because I had time to process also from getting that call the night before. So it was kind of good for me to drive and can think through at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it
Oh yeah,
was.
then I can imagine for any typical counselor or psychotherapist, it can be both very frightening because
Yeah.
it is unlike any other typical counseling session. You see a familiar client, you know what's going on. At the same time, also this excitement, learning and researching, personalizing to different events.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. For me, shock has always worked in my favor, if I may say so.
Yeah.
Um, because you're in flight or fight mood at that time. Like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
literally just get on it. This is what I have to do. I don't have long to
Mhm.
prepare. I have to get on it. And so even my sleep was not good the night before because your brain is working still as you try to sleep, right? So even the sleep is not the best. And then I get up so early. So yeah, it's really different from when you have your clients and you know your clients and you're working with them and you're in a safe environment. This is a different environment. You're going to this place for the first time. You're meeting people you have never met before, and you're asking them to share things with you that is personal, emotional, you know? So it can be quite difficult. It can be, yeah.
Yeah, and Kenya, from my understanding, you come into the event, and a lot of the staff they didn't hear the news of the traumatic event. They broke the news at the time while you were
Yes,
there.
yes.
And tell us about the pressure, the first reactions.
Yeah, well, definitely. As I mentioned, like everyone was gathered. Some persons, the thing about this, some persons were starting, like they call it grapevine. So some persons were hearing little things, and
Mm,
some persons had absolutely no knowledge of it. And at that time, you could hear the crying, you could hear the screaming. Some persons silently cried. Some persons walked away to do whatever it is. Some persons were uncontrollably crying. So there were just so many different, some persons were just standing there, nothing, absolutely no emotions being shown. So there were so many things as I looked around because that was important for me to do at that time, to take that moment to just see how persons are reacting and to kind of gather myself to really work with them as a team. So yeah.
and Kenya, at that very moment, there's silence, there's crying, there's people walking away. How do you establish the working relationships, or in psychology we call it the therapeutic alliance, to gain that trust before people disclose work with you with the psychology?
Yeah, definitely. I right after they got the news, I spoke with them again to inform them that I'll be in the boardroom and that's where I'll meet with you. There are a few persons I stopped to talk with because they were either crying or they were in disbelief or whatever it is. But immediately after I said that, it was important for me to move to the boardroom because persons had started going there. They wanted to sit, they wanted to meet. And as you asked about how did I gain their trust, it was like a moment of silence, validating whatever it is they were showing. Some were crying, some were just sitting down, some were, it was just a whole bunch of different emotions. So for me, it was to give that moment of, I wasn't rushing Joseph at that time to be, oh, let's begin. That was not the case. It was sitting down, giving them time to absorb somewhat of what they just heard, and then gently bringing their focus to us and the group and just discussing a few things like confidentiality. You know, what we discuss is confidential and it will not, be shared otherwise because you're getting people to wanting to feel like it's a safe space. That's important because they'll be sharing their thoughts and emotions. And it's hard for people to open up like that. So for me, it was to validate their feeling and to build that trust gently. So yeah, that's how I started it.
What a great work being done there, Tanya.
I, yeah, I think it was something that I would love to continue to do.
And also something very special in you to be able to use that momentum and
Mhm.
pressure and work towards it to support people in need.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny, Joseph? At that time, it was really for me to see how best I can support them. So all the fears I had the night before and the preparation I had to do somewhat was gone. It was really, how do I help Joseph? How do I support this team at this point? It wasn't, I totally forgot about myself and all my insecurities and everything that I second guessed myself about. At that moment, it was really about them. How do I show up for them, hold space for them, support them? that was what I was doing at that time. And yeah, it was a moment. It was a moment. Yeah.
It sounds like Tanya, at that time you were just in the zone, or what
Yeah.
we call the flow state in sports psychology. You're
Mm.
just being there, being yourself, using
That's-
that muscle memory you develop with so many counseling training under your
mm.
belt.
Yeah. That essentially is what it was, Joseph. I wasn't even thinking about all the things that everything was muscle memory, as you mentioned. It was just going. I was just going and going. I was there from 8 o'clock,
Mhm,
a little before 8, but essentially started meeting with the management team at 8. And then I left at 5. So it was a complete full day. There were persons who did not join the groups sessions that I had, and they were just in their office. Some
mhm,
persons, Joseph, after hearing this, who had worked with their colleague for over 10 years, were sitting down working away on their computer
mhm,
because
mhm,
this is how they're processing. Well, they haven't
mhm,
started
yeah,
to process, right? So there were so many
mhm,
persons, and with those persons, I went to them after my group sessions and I had a
mhm,
moment with them. Some broke down and cried at that point. It was an opportunity for them to finally
mhm,
release that buildup, that shot that they were having to really explode and to really talk. And we also lighten the moments about memories. What are some things that you remember about this
mhm,
colleague? Some fun things, and they laugh.
mhm,
It was a mixture. It's like bittersweet, pain, and just
mhm.
a good memory of this person. So, yeah.
Yeah. And can you hear, because according to the research, one of the evidence-based model is called the Mitchell model with the 7 steps for the CSID,
Mhm.
debriefing. Can you tell us some of the biggest steps or stages in this model that you utilize throughout the day?
Yes, for sure. The first one, of course, is the introductory stage, and
Mhm.
that
Okay.
phase is so critical. You're in front of strangers, you're meeting with strangers. You have to really set some rules. You have to try to inform them of what this is. They don't know why are you here? What are you doing? So this is where you really use the opportunity to tell them your role. What am I doing here today?
Mhm.
Who am I as a person though? Like my profession, who am I?
Wow.
Because that's important. So I find the introductory stage to be extremely critical. You need to
Mhm.
inform them who you are, why you're here. You also
Mhm.
inform them at that time about the CISD and
Mhm.
what research has shown to it to do, right? I find that to be a
Mhm.
good one. Another stage, of course, is the facts. Why I like the facts phase is because it helps to structure it. It's not what they think or believe. It's really the
Mhm.
fact. This is what happened. This is what is happening.
Mhm.
And when persons are able to share that fact stage, it brings them down where it's not about emotions at this time, Joseph.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
really the fact, as it
Mhm.
said. And once you move from that, another stage I like, it's the emotional phase where they get to share, I am feeling. That phase I find to be extremely important. I had a person who
Mhm.
said, I don't know what I'm feeling.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
They didn't know what they were feeling at that time. Some person said,
Mhm.
I can't believe I was expecting the person to be here next week.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
many different feelings, emotions were coming out at that time. And that's when you get even more tears at that time because no, they're going deeper than they're going to their feelings. And that's typically a
Mhm.
deeper
Mhm.
situation right there. I did like the psychoeducation. I did like going through with my
Mhm.
groups and
Yeah.
teaching them how to
Mhm.
cope, coping strategies. I think that was very interesting for me to work with them. And the good thing about my groups,
Mhm.
Joseph, is they all participated. Um,
Wow.
they
Mhm.
all participated, and I used the opportunity to really give them different techniques of what they
Mhm.
can do because this can last for a while. It may not be showing up now, But what do you do when you
Mm-hmm.
start feeling this? So I did like the psychoeducation phase where I get to educate them on things that they can do, and also sharing material like they had
Mm-hmm.
EFAP, for example, so they were able to reach out to a counselor and to meet one on one in the event they needed that. So giving them those tools and support system that they can have down the line, I genuinely like that phase too. Which other phase would I say stood out for me? Yeah, I think of the seven phases, I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate the fact. I appreciate the emotional stage where they share their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, where you're able to provide them with some coping strategies and tools and to get them going as you go. Because you're there for the day. Typically, it's a 1 to 3 hours session, right? So you're not there with
Mm-hmm.
them to go through this entire process, essentially.
Yeah, and Tanya here, because you are there from 8
Yes.
a.m. in the morning, and before that you have to do a big drive,
Yes.
and then you finish around 5, and then you still have a big drive to drive
To
home.
go back home. Yes.
How do you sustain yourself in this big long day? Because most counselors don't do such big days. It is like a marathon here.
Yes, yes, definitely. I think I was being fueled by adrenaline at that point, if I must be honest. I, yes, I was, it was like an out of body experience, to be honest with you, Joseph. I wasn't even hungry. They did leave a bunch of food and stuff, but it was like I was just going, going, going.
Yeah.
But at the end of the night, I was tired. I was extremely tired. Yeah.
Yeah. And Tanya, throughout the whole day, what are some of the highlights of the feedback or comments the participants or staff gave it to you?
Yeah. My biggest takeaway from their feedback is the coping skills, person
Yeah.
walking away with those, persons saying they feel better, even though I know it might not, it doesn't mean they're fixed, but I could appreciate them being in a safe space where they're able to process or start the process of this traumatic event. So those were some of the feedback that I got that really said, you you did something today. You really facilitated this team today because they walked away with tools. They were able to get that safe space to really share and to start the process of what had happened. And yeah, and as I mentioned to you earlier, I saw where peer support was so big amongst the group, where they were able to lean on their colleagues, and yeah, that was also very interesting to see. So
And Tanya, it is an important observation
yes,
because even in individual counseling, when we see people go through traumatic event,
mm,
crisis, adjustments, transition, and we know in research, transition can be something positive, like going through a marriage, moving to a different country, or it can be a negative event, a divorce, separation, and all that. The social support really is a big predictor of the outcomes of
yes,
individuals.
yes, it is. And I could definitely see that happening, and just how persons just naturally were there to support each other. And that's what they needed. And funny enough, at the end of the day, as I debriefed the management team and I shared, of course, what happened, this is one of the things that I shared with them, that their staff, they're really supporting each other. And,
Yeah.
just a little recommendation was that the team continue to support them, to be there, to show, to not just locked away, but to continue to support them as they go through this. So social support was extremely important. Yeah.
And Tanya here, tell us more about debriefing the staff employees compared to debriefing the management team. Are there any
Yes,
difference or similarities?
definitely. Well, to be honest, the management team more had questions for me And I applauded them for this, Joseph. I did, and I shared it with them. I said, I applaud you guys for how delicate you handled this situation, and how the effort, like they wanted to ensure that the email that was being sent out was fitting. They wanted to ensure that how
Yeah.
they informed the staff. They put so much thought into in how they're going to share such a news, and I applauded
Mhm.
them for that. But they had more questions and as to how do we how do we inform them? How do we continue to support them? That that's how it was with them. It was more about discussing with them how to support the rest of the staff, the employees. With the employees,
Mm.
it was supporting them, giving them that space to start the process of
Mm.
breathing. So that was the big difference between the management team and the rest of the staff.
It sounds like for the silver lining for this tragedy event is they
Mhm.
have a very supportive management and
They
managers.
do. Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah. So Tanya, after this event, this big work day, what happened the day after?
Well, the day after for me, it was regular day. I go back to work and I started again. But yes, but you know what? There were lots of reflection. There were lots of reflection for me as I go through what could I have done differently? Did I do this? So it's this point where you really reflect and say, did I do this well?
Yeah.
What could I have done differently? And it's beneficial because it means in another situation, I am able to take away whatever I reflected on that I could have done better and apply it to another situation. So the following day I went back to work as usual, but it was lots of reflection of I could have,
Mhm.
I should have, and I also gave myself pat on the back of, you know, these were done well,
Mhm.
essentially. Yeah.
Wow, excellent here. And Tanya, for a lot of the counselors, psychotherapists who wants to go into this field of CISD, critical incident service debriefing, what should they take note of? Research or study or prepare themselves before applying for jobs or from your
So you're
observation?
sorry, could you repeat that, Joseph?
When people want to get into this line of work, for
Yes.
those counselors, psychotherapists, are there anything that they can prepare themselves before jumping into the deep end?
Well, if you have a good mentor, that's very good. That would be super beneficial. But I don't know if there are courses to be exact, but I'm sure there are. But essentially for me, and I know there's lots more that I need to learn to really nail
Mhm.
this, but doing research is out there, speaking with other professionals. If they have a mentor or a supervisor, they can
Mhm.
really guide them through this. I think essentially that would be a good way to start, to be honest. That's how I started. So
Oh yeah. So in summary, having a good clinical supervisors, a peer groups, and constant training
yeah,
and putting
definitely
yourself
content.
under pressure, I guess.
If it works for you, if it can help them, but definitely yes, and doing their own research because it's there. Doing your research, really checking in with your clinical supervisor for guidance,
Mm.
and of course, as you if you have a peer support group, then that can also be beneficial. So
Because I know Tanya, you are also special too. In the past, you put yourself to a lot of different client presentations. You do individual, couple, family, big group counseling. You
yes, yeah,
learn, you push
yeah,
yourself outside of the comfort zone to
I
learn.
do, I do. Because I think, Joseph, to be honest, if I want to do this, I am really passionate about this. And the more I do it, is the more I fall in love with it. And sometimes you're inspired also. I'm honestly inspired by you. And I've said that so many times. I am truly inspired by you. And I feel like when I just having you around, I feel like I can do this. I can do this. And that's the truth. When you share something with me, and coming back to saying having that person who you can get support, just as I spoke earlier about peer support, having someone who
Mhm.
you feel like they can support you and they're rooting for you, it's really beneficial. And it gives you the confidence to say, I want to do this, or I believe in myself when you didn't believe in yourself. So yes.
Yeah, Tanya here. Today we are very happy to have you on our podcast. We are close to the end here. If any viewers, any other counselors, psychotherapists have questions to learn more about your counseling, I know that you are based in Saskatchewan, in Saskatoon. How can they
Yes.
find you on social media, online, or anything here?
Well, I am developing my different like my psychology today. Those are in the process and they're not yet out because I'd hold back a bit on those, but those will be out very soon. I'm working on them, my LinkedIn, all of those. So I am presently working on those. And once those are up and going, I'll be happy to share it even on this very podcast, maybe in the chat. I'll pin it or something. But yes, I am presently working to get myself more out there as I haven't been really advertising and stuff like that. So that's something that I'll be doing.
And for all the viewers today, we will leave Tanya's contact in the chat there so you have her contact to contact her directly.
Yes, sure. Definitely. My number, my email, it will be there.
And Tanya, we're very grateful to have you to share about your experience. And we can't wait to invite you again for the podcast.
Yes, thank you so much, Jose, for giving me this opportunity and this platform to share my experience with CISD and to implore others who are really interested to go ahead and do whatever makes them happy and whatever their passion is to just go ahead and pursue it as I am doing. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Tanya. Chat soon.
Okay, bye for now.